It is an exciting weekend and Sabbath here because it is Loma Linda University Alumni Weekend. There are 8 different schools, I believe, that are coming, and we have so much to share with you.
That's right. Starting right away is there will be a Sabbath School special program. That's in addition to the worship services, very special. And then also, just a heads up, this afternoon at 4:30, the Loma Linda Medical Auxiliary is having a very special Mission Vespers. You're going to want to make sure you make that. And then there's some stuff in the evening.
There sure is. At 6 o'clock in the Campus Hill Church, which is right across the street, there's going to be the Jehovah Shalom concert there. 6 o'clock, and then at 6:30 is all of the games and the family movie night at Drayson Center for all the alumni and current students. We are just so glad that all of you are joining with us online or here in the sanctuary that are alumni and guests, and of course our own church members.
And just a quick note, the concert group, the Jehovah Shalom,
yes,
is actually going to be singing in the service, so you can get a taste of that. So we have a packed weekend, but it's a great weekend. We're so glad you're here.
Lots of fun.
Now, in a couple of weeks, want to have you put this on your calendar. The Loma Linda Academy Wind Symphony is going to have a concert right here in the sanctuary at 5 p.m. You're not going to want to miss that.
We have a special activity for all of our seniors under the leadership of Pastor Daryl Retzer and his team. They are going to have something really fun for you guys. It's going to be in the Fellowship Hall. March the 17th. It's a Sunday at 2 o'clock. It's called Music and Memories. They're going to have music from your high school years. There are going to be prizes. There's going to be host Lee McIntyre, who was in charge of KSGN radio. So come on out. More details will be on our website, but we want to get that on your calendar. March the 17th at 2 o'clock, Sunday in the Fellowship Hall.
Next, it's a few weeks away, but we want to give you a heads up. April 20, having the Good Grief Seminar in the Fellowship Hall. So good friends of mine, Pam and Mike Tucker, are going to be presenting. It's 1 in the afternoon. And if you are struggling with grief or know someone that is, really encourage you to attend this or sign up for this. I've had the privilege of actually filming some grief seminar content with Mike over the years, and it's some great, really helpful content, and I've seen people really benefit from it. So if that's a need of yours, I encourage you to check that out, April 20. And then also, we've been talking about it for a couple of weeks, but once again, we want to give you a heads up on a mission trip to Kenya.
Hi, you guys. I'm here in Kenya at the Masai Mara West Camp. Dustin Aho, who is our executive pastor. Dustin, we miss you, but we're glad that you're in such a beautiful setting. You guys, there's a mission trip coming up in June. You will not want to miss it. Dustin's going to tell you a little bit about it.
We'd love to invite you to join us here at Mara West with Africa Mission Services on a mission trip that's coming up June 3 through 18. UReach will be organizing it. We'd love to have you come. We're going to do a bunch of community projects with our clinic, our secondary school. We'll have some children's programs. And then if we have enough clinical people come, we'll hold some clinics as well. We'll end our trip with a 2-day safari in the world-famous Masai Mara. We'd really like to have you come and join us. So please, if possible, come and spend some time with us.
We encourage you to come on this mission trip. It will be such a blessing to you. Alumni, we would love to have you. Go to our website to check out the details.
Well, that's our announcements for today. As always, for the latest information, go to our website, LLUC.org.
Have an incredible Sabbath day.
As you may have noticed in your bulletin, that beautiful rendition of I Am Bound for the Promised Land was in honor of Dr. Melissa Kidder, beloved faculty member here, chair of our OBGYN department, who passed away a few weeks ago. So thank you, Larry, for that. Welcome home. It's good to have all of you here on a sunny California day. It's always a special time at homecoming weekend to have our alumni come back from literally all over the world. We've enjoyed time already together in a number of programs, and we'll certainly enjoy this church service together. I want to introduce the deans here at Loma Linda, if I can remember all of their names, lined up in all their beauty here. So I'll start here. Craig Jackson, Dean of our School of Allied Health Professions, our largest school by numbers of students, up on the hill in Nickel Hall. Bev Buckles, Dean of our School of Behavioral Health, which has psychology, social work, and marriage and family counseling in it. Rob Handysides, Dean of our School of Dentistry. Tammy Thomas, Dean of the School of Medicine, which includes not just the MD degree, but our basic science degrees and also our pathologist assistant. And if I can do a bit of advertising, next year starting a master's in genetic counseling as well in the School of Medicine. Sean Collins, our Dean of the School of Nursing. Kyle Souza, Dean of our School of Pharmacy, one of our newer schools, but doing well. Adam Arechiga, Dean of our School of Public Health. And then, Leo Ranzelin, Dean of our School of Religion. That's our smallest school by their own students, but our largest school because they teach all the other students. So they teach across the entire campus. And finally, on the end down there, Aaron No. Aaron, we recently put in as director of our San Manuel Gateway College, our program in San Bernardino with the certificate programs for our high school kids. These are the people that make this place happen. So thank you all for being part of this. And now I would like to see who is here. So let's start with alumni that are celebrating your 25th anniversary. So that would be what, the class of, I better do my math right. Anyway, the 25th anniversary class. Please stand if you would, if those are here from the class, the 25th anniversary class. And let's go to the 50th anniversary class. See how well we do on that one. 50th anniversary. And now I'm starting to stretch it. The 60th anniversary class. How many from that class? Okay, I am going to push it now. How many more than 60 years that are here today, alumnus of Loma Linda? Thank you very much. A blue zone indeed, and we welcome all of you. I would like all alumni to please stand now from any class. Would you please stand up and let us recognize you? And before you sit down, can I ask all employees at Loma Linda to also stand up at this time and join them? All employees at Loma Linda. Thank you very much. Welcome back home. Enjoy.
Please pray with me. Father God, we thank you so much for the opportunity to come into your house to worship you because you are faithful, Lord. Father, we thank you for the Sabbath and that it is alumni homecoming weekend, and we get an opportunity to come together as one family to see former classmates, to fellowship together, but most of all, to share about your goodness towards us. God, you're so good. We pray for a blessing on those who wanted to be here but were unable. Those who may be watching online, please be present with them, Lord. send your love and grace into their hearts right now. Thank you for Loma Linda University and for its continued training in the teaching and healing ministry of Jesus. Please place your blessing on all of that is said and done today, Lord. Fill us with your Spirit, God. Be our vision today and make us one. We pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Every student has a compelling story, such as Lorena Holbrook, who came to our campus with a big dream to get a degree at the School of Nursing. But then, as life often does, threw her some curveballs. After a sudden end to her marriage, the loss of her home, job, church community, all in the same month. And she wondered, can I do this? Can I care for my young son? Am I going to get through it? And then she said this, which I love, I decided in fearful hope to take a leap of faith. In fearful hope, trusting this community will have her back, took that leap of faith. Lorena has a true passion for providing quality health care that considers all dimensions of human flourishing, body, mind, and spirit. And so she is convinced that God has called her here, that this is the right place for her education. She hopes one day to serve in cardiac nursing and to work toward a doctorate of nursing practice degree, to serve as a nurse practitioner. She also has discovered here that she has a passion for teaching and hopes to someday teach in the area of pathophysiology to help future nursing students. Lorena is profoundly grateful for the support that she has received here from faculty, from fellow students, and from her new church family at Anthem, right here at the University Church. She's surrounded by this community and is so appreciative that they have not only welcomed her, but her young son as well. She is currently very connected to other mothers and parents on their journeys, and they have formed a student-parent support group where they share resources and meet regularly just to encourage one another. Her most recent scholarship came after a week of intense prayer, and she knows it is the hand of God in her life. And she says that there's no doubt that this university is the perfect fit for her in this season of life, and she hopes someday to be that voice of hope to encourage other students here at the university. Well, of course, Lorena's story is just one of 4,247 other stories here who depend on us, maybe a few years ahead, to give generously so that we can support them. And then someday they will support the generations to come. And so at this time, you will find an envelope there in the pew in front of you that you can simply put your offerings in that envelope, and it will go to help worthy students like Lorena. Or you can simply scan the QR code and give that way. Our loose offerings today will go to local church budget, but thank you on behalf of all of the students for your generosity and for your support.
have fixed my mind on another time, on another time, and here I mean to stand until God gives me more light, and that is today, until He comes. I have fixed my mind on another time, on another time. I have set my course on the narrow way, on the narrow way, for I know the time is close at hand, for which I watch and pray, and that is today, until He comes. I have set my course on the narrow way, on the narrow way. Even so, Lord, come quickly. This is my fervent prayer, for I've caught a glimpse of glory, and I'm longing to be Shall the Son of Man appear, and the trumpet sound its blast, and Christ descend in glorious fire, with all the saints amassed, we'll rise with those who sleep no more, to meet Him in the air. When shall the Son of Man appear? The Son of Man appear. Oh Lord, come quickly. This is my fervent prayer, for I've caught a glimpse of glory, and I'm longing to be there, for I've caught a glimpse of glory. I'm longing to be there. I fixed my eye on another
The scripture reading today is from Luke 10:25-37.
One day, an expert in religious law stood up to test Jesus by asking him this question: "Teacher, what should I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus replied, "What does the law of Moses say? How do you read it?" The man answered, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself."
"Right," Jesus told him, "do this and you will live." But the man wanted to justify his actions, so he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied with a story. A Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho, and he was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, and left him half dead beside the road. By chance, a priest came along, but when he saw the man lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road and passed him by. A temple assistant walked over and looked at him lying there, but he also passed by on the other side.
Then a despised Samaritan came along, and when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. Going over to him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine, and then bandaged him. Then he put the man on his own donkey and took him to an inn where he took care of him. The next day, he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, "Take care of this man. If his bill runs higher than this, I'll pay you the next time I'm here." Then Jesus asked, "Now, which of these 3 would you say was a neighbor to the man who was attacked by the bandits?" The man replied, "The one who showed him mercy."
Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God and in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. I go to prepare a place for thee. The Lord is coming, are you ready? The Lord is coming, are you ready? Would your heart be right if he came tonight? The Lord is coming, are you ready? Why will you wait, my brother? Promises of God all are true. Jesus bought your life on Calvary's mountain, and soon he will come again for you. The Lord is coming, are you ready? The Lord is coming, are you ready? Would your heart be right if he came tonight? The Lord is coming. Are you ready?
I want to add my voice to the voices of others who have already said welcome. To those of you who have come back for homecoming, Dr. Hart, it's a privilege for us as a church to join with the university and to celebrate this very special time, this very special occasion. We're delighted to see you. We've rolled out our best weather, so you remember what Southern California is like. And haystacks on top of it. It's hard to beat that. It's going to be a great weekend. Some questions are very hard to answer, and when they do get answered, we don't even really like the answer. When I was a student at Southwestern Adventist University in Keene, Texas, a story went around that reflected that. The story is said to have happened at Jefferson Academy in East Texas. I can't vouch for the veracity of it, but this is how it was told. Apparently, one day there at Jefferson, a boy had sneaked into the girls' dorm. Now, at an Adventist academy, that's big stuff. And so the dean immediately went into search mode. Room after room, under the bed, behind the dresser, into the closet, just going room after room, trying to find where this boy was, until she finally got to the room where she suspected he might be. Opened the door. The girl was standing there wide-eyed. Is he here? No. Looked under the bed, moved over the other side of the dresser, no one. Yanked open the closet door, and there he stood, just looking at her. And then she asked one of those kinds of questions. She said, "What are you doing here?" And he apparently said, "Well, everybody's got to be somewhere." I don't know, there's just something in me that says the dean wasn't real excited about that answer. Because there are questions like that. They're hard to answer, and even when they get answered, we're not wild about the answer. I read a story this last week out of my files. I'd read it years ago, I'd forgotten about it, but it was the story of a couple, old codger and his wife, country folk, getting ready for bed. Looking out of their second floor bedroom farm window, she looked toward the barn and she said, "You left the light on in the barn." He said, "I wasn't even out at the barn. I didn't leave it on." "Well, it's on." So he went over to the window and looked out, and sure enough, the light was on. And then when he looked more closely, he realized there were figures moving around. And then he realized there were people out there stealing his stuff, his equipment, his tools. He went to the phone, punched in 911, said, "You got to send police immediately. They're stealing stuff from my barn." The dispatcher said, "I'm really sorry, but where you are, we don't have any units in the area. It's going to be a while." "Well, how long?" "I don't know. It's going to be a while." He hung up, slammed the phone down, upset, didn't like that answer. Stewed for about 30, 45 seconds, and then dialed 911 again, got the same dispatcher. Said to her, "Don't worry about sending those officers. I shot them all." Hung it up again. Within 5 minutes, there were 4 units there. Arrested all the thieves. The officer in charge looked at him and said, "I thought you said you shot them all." He said, "I thought you said you had no units." Because there are just some questions that are hard to answer, and when we do answer them, we're not sure we like the answer. That was the kind of question that got asked that day in the crowd. It was a lawyer, an expert in the law, who asked Jesus the question. It was a question that has a tough answer, even when it does get answered. Jesus heard the question, and when you read the incident, you heard it from the doctors Hadley when they read it. It's in a certain setting. There's this kind of back and forth between Jesus and this expert in the law until finally it comes down to that question. Just who is my neighbor? In seeking to answer that question, Jesus tells the parable of the Good Samaritan. It's a parable that almost as soon as it was told went to work on Christian communities and Christian churches. It has been much at work in the 2,000 years since it was told. It's a story that has calloused hands and gnarled knees and strong arms. It's been working hard. It has influenced the Christian community, the Christian culture. It has made its way onto campuses like ours. In fact, if you happen to be a guest today, not a part of alumni, but a guest here who's new to our campus, when the service is over, walk out our doors and go a bit to the left, and there you will find them. Those sculpted figures of silent sentinels who continue to preach kindness and caregiving and grace. And it grows out of that exchange Jesus had. That question, hard to answer, and even when we get the answer, we're not sure we like it. So I went back, knowing that this weekend would involve much about service. I went back and went through my files trying to find, have we ever spent our worship time here on the parable of the Good Samaritan? And we have, one time. Over 20 years ago, May of 2002. So, Dr. Hart, we're going back today to that parable that is at the heart of what Loma Linda University strives to be. The incident takes place in Luke's Gospel, the 10th chapter. The doctors Hadley read it in the New International Version. I want to reread it to you in the New Living Translation. Listen to what it says, starting in verse 25. One day, an expert in religious law, a lawyer, stood up to test Jesus. This isn't a sincere conversation. He's testing him, trying to back him into a corner. To test Jesus by asking him this question, Teacher, what should I do to inherit eternal life? Jesus replied, What does the law of Moses say? How do you read it? The man answered, You must love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and all your strength and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Right, Jesus told him. Do this, and you will live. The man wanted to justify his actions. In other words, he wanted to limit the application of the law in his case and feel like he was in good condition. The man wanted to justify his actions, so he asked Jesus, and this is the question, and who is my neighbor? In the Greek, the emphasis is on the pronoun, and who is my neighbor? Jesus replied with a story. A Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho, and he was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, and left him half dead beside the road. By chance, a priest came along, but when he saw the man lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road and passed him by. A temple assistant, a Levite, walked over and looked at him lying there, but he also passed by on the other side. Then a despised Samaritan came along, and when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. Going over to him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine and bandaged him. Then he put the man on his own donkey and took him to an inn where he took care of him. The next day he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, Take care of this man. If his bill runs higher than this, I'll pay you the next time I'm here. Now, which of these 3 would you say was a neighbor to the man who was attacked by bandits? Jesus asked. The man replied, The one who showed him mercy. Then Jesus said, Yes, now go and do the same. It's not really an honest question. He's trying to justify himself, trying to figure out a way that this doesn't apply to him. But the question does get asked, and who is my neighbor? And the story follows. So first, the setting. The setting is what gets called the Jericho Road. It's a road about 17 miles long that runs between Jerusalem and Jericho. We were privileged to be there 2 or 3 years ago, to stand on one side of a canyon and look across, and we could see etched into the wall of the canyon on the other side what is called the Jericho Road. It's a rough road. It's in a desert area, rocky, mountainous, caverns, ravines, switchbacks. In fact, enough switchbacks to deal with the fact that Jerusalem is some 2,600 feet above sea level, and Jericho, depending where you are, is some maybe 800, 900 feet below sea level. So up to 3,300 feet of elevation change in 17 miles. That's the setting down this twisting, winding road. Not a safe place. Place where many could hide. A dangerous road. That's the setting. The characters. The first character is the traveler. Now you can imagine the conversation at home before he left. Got to go to Jericho. Jericho, please. Got to go. You're not going alone. The others can't go right now. They'll go the next day. I don't want you going down that road by yourself. That's enough. I've got to go. Well, can't it wait? No, it can't wait. I'll be fine. You may not be fine. I'll be fine. Now, enough. I'll be fine. And off he goes. The twistbacks, the turns, the descent. Enter the next characters. The robbers, the bandits. We don't know much at all about them except that they're there, they pounce. Some have said, I don't think there's textual warrant for this, maybe cultural warrant. Some have said they themselves would have been Samaritan. Whoever they were, they're clearly the bad guys. They're the ones who attack. They're the ones who grab belongings and possessions. They're the ones who beat him up. They're the ones who leave him there for dead and disappear. The next character, the priest, the pastor. I don't know, I have a bit of an affinity for him. He's either coming from or going to worship. But he must have missed the lecture that day when the professor at seminary covered the fact that the very best kind of worship happens when we have come from places of service, and it happens in such a way that it drives us out to places of service. He must have missed that day because he went by on the other side. Now, I'll tell you, when we looked at the portion of the road that we saw, it's on my bucket list to walk that road, but it's almost as dangerous today as it was then, apparently. When I saw that road, I thought, that is not very wide. To walk by on the other side, you have to be, at least in that section of the road, very intent about going around, avoiding. And so the priest comes by. Why? I don't know. Didn't want to touch blood. Didn't want to be ceremonially defiled. Passes by. Next, the Levite. Elder, deacon, I don't know. Very kind of person called to acts of mercy. Walks by. And then comes the Samaritan. Now, the New Living Translation helps us by inserting the word, a despised Samaritan. That's exactly how those in the crowd that day listening to Jesus would have felt about this person. When I look at my Bible and I look at the heading, it's likely the same in yours. I look at the heading, it says the parable of the Good Samaritan. That's not in the original text. Nobody there in that crowd that day would have called this the Good Samaritan story. That's an oxymoron in that world. It's a misnomer. It's like saying, I was at Loma Linda. I saw a lot of stress-free dental students. I saw a lot of anxiety-free medical students. Looking around your neighborhood and town, you say, oh yeah, that's that person. They're always at peace. They're a small business owner. Or if you want to move it more into a moral arena, you say, I had a wonderful conversation last night with a virtuous lady of the night. And you say, what? These kinds of terms don't go together. They don't match precisely. It matches for us because we become so used to calling it that, the Good Samaritan. Not so in the world of Jesus. And yet here he comes, stopping, helping, investing himself, following through. That's that character. And then there's a character right at the end, just a cameo appearance, the innkeeper, the one who receives the charge and is going to care for him. So there you have the setting, and there you have the characters. It doesn't take much more than that to begin asking questions about this story, to begin asking, wait a minute, who are the good guys and who are the bad guys? Because the one I thought were the good guys aren't looking so good, and the one that was the bad guy there is looking so good, history has named him the Good Samaritan. What's going on here in this story? New Testament scholar Mary Hinkle Shore writes this about this parable. Preachers, she writes, often spend a lot of time explaining why the priest and Levite would behave in such a detached way towards someone who was suffering. Were the two frightened that the man in the ditch was a decoy? Were they seeking perhaps to avoid interacting with a man's blood or to avoid incurring corpse impurity if the man were dead? Readers of the parable may speculate about why religious leaders would choose to pass by someone who needed their help, but in fact, Jesus offers no answer to the question at all. Jesus does, however, report why the Samaritan stopped. He was moved with pity. In the New Testament, the verb splanchnizomai is used to refer to three characters in parables, 3 times in characters in parables. The father of the prodigal son, the master who forgives an astronomical debt to a servant, and the Samaritan. The other 9 New Testament occurrences of the verb all have Jesus as their subject. In every case, to feel such compassion is to be moved to extraordinary action. Luke, in other words, is saying, this bad guy acts like the very best person. He is Christ-like in what he did. No wonder then that over the years, not only the years of our lives, but over the centuries of Christian faith, the main lesson that emerges from this story is that our neighbor is anyone who needs our help. Our neighbor is anyone who needs help. It's a very simple lesson. It's complicated and it's difficult to live, but it's simple to understand. What do we do with the panhandler who's asking money? What do we do? What do we do with the patient who comes with no health insurance? How do we respond? How do we respond to people on our streets in encampments? How do we interact? It's a simple lesson to understand. It's a complicated lesson to live. Lee Aveling, one of the chaplains up at the medical center, shared with me about a time when he pulled over and stopped at night. Car broken down, stopped beside the road, backed up, was just preparing to turn off the key and to step out when suddenly he saw several dark shadows racing out of the bushes, carrying what looked like to be chains, headed for his car. So I crammed it in gear and took off. It's an easy lesson to understand. It's a complicated one to live. I have tried, unsuccessfully many times, but tried not to let my questions about their motives become reasons to harden my heart. But even that is hard to live. So it leaves me wondering, is there another lesson also contained in this parable? One that we haven't been as quick to see, as quick to recognize, one that can also apply to us. Because you see, when we have viewed this parable, when we read it, throughout my life anyway, we have viewed it through the eyes and through the experiences of the priest and the Levite and the Samaritan, going down the road of life. Here is somebody whom life has battered. This is my neighbor. I need to respond in some way to help. That's where our lesson for this parable comes from. Our neighbor is someone who needs our help. But what if we view it not through their eyes, but through the eyes of the injured man? As you saw, the NLT says he was no doubt Jewish. Robert Farrar Capon, in one of his books on the parable, says this: the man who fell among thieves presumably was Jewish. Therefore, if either the priest or the Levite had bothered to make his acquaintance, they would have recognized him as one of their own. But since the shipwreck of his life had made him unrecognizable to them, he might as well not have been a Jew at all. If then this man, as it appears to be the case, is indeed Jewish, when he lies half dead, he is no doubt praying, God, please, I need help. And then, as though in response to his prayer, he can see coming toward him his pastor. The priest, my pastor. He will help. And he walks by. And then it's the head elder, head deacon. Oh, I know him from church. He knows me. He will help. He's praying, thank you, God. Thank you, thank you. And he walks by. And now the man is desperate. Please, God, send help. He sees a figure through blood-stained, bleary eyes, trying to focus. It takes a bit for the features to come into shape, the colors to be clear, and he realizes who this is. Do you suppose that he might have said, at least to himself, oh, no, just, there'll be another priest, another Levite, just walk on by. I don't need help from you. I mean, after all, we kind of like to choose from whom we receive help, right? I mean, from a scholarly journal called Reader's Digest of some years ago, they had a little piece in there, trivia about U.S. presidents. Here was one of the questions that appeared in that little piece. Question: which president is credited with saving 77 lives? Answer: Ronald Reagan, as a lifeguard in his hometown of Dixon, Illinois. Then the piece adds, however, some of the rescues may have been young women faking it simply to get the handsome young man's attention. I'm drowning, I need help. No, go away. Yeah, from him I want help, not from you. And we like to choose, don't we? Like to choose the best class, the most reputable teacher. I've heard that doctor is the best one. You'll like this person. They match with you. It's just better, isn't it? If we can get help from those that we like and accept and are like us, it just makes me wonder. Was he desperate enough where he overlooked that? Or might he have said in his heart of hearts, just walk on by. There'll be another priest, another Levite. Or I wonder if he realized in his heart of hearts that our neighbor is not only the one who needs help, but our neighbor is the one who offers help. In the first case, it kind of keeps us in the driver's seat. It keeps us in control. We're the ones who know. We're the ones who have resources. We're the ones who can interact. We're the ones who can choose to step away. In the second case, we're out of the driver's seat. We're suddenly now at the mercy of someone else. It's a much different reality. Our neighbor is the one who needs help. Our neighbor is the one who offers help. Years ago, decades ago, young psychiatrist at the time, now emeritus faculty at Harvard University, named Robert Coles, went down to New Orleans. It was in the 60s. It was in the height of racial tensions. It was desegregation was the focus of the day. Young man had come from the north, had gone down to New Orleans to help. His name was Dion. He got into trouble there. He was arrested for disturbing the peace. Exactly how had Dion disturbed the peace? He had sat down and requested a meal at a counter that said, "No black patrons." So he had been arrested. He was in prison now, and they called in Dr. Coles to talk to this young man. And so they talked. Coles wanted to know, why are you here? What does this do for you? He says, it brings me satisfaction. Coles thought, how does this satisfy you? All the trouble, the arrest, all the other stuff? I don't understand. I want to read to you, while they are the words written by Coles, they're the words spoken by Dion. He said, they're all ready to call me nuts at the drop of a hat. Now they have me in jail, and they're pushing the judge to call me a sociopath or something. But no one is looking at them. What's wrong with their heads? They're full of hate and prejudice, and they say awful things about anyone who doesn't look like them and belong to their race and their class. And Coles listened. And something began to happen. Coles said, not to Dion, but to Robert Coles. He writes, he was willing, he's writing about Dion, he was willing in his quiet, unassuming manner to ask me to become a student of his. Wait a minute, wait. Who's the psychiatrist? The professor? Who's the one that has the degrees after his name? Who's the one that can be here to extend help when needed? Aren't we kind of turning things around? What does he say? He was asking me to become a student of his. Did Coles learn anything from Dion? He said, I was beginning to crumble inside, beginning to share Dion's grave doubts about how my profession is used to sort people, judge them, and even condemn them. Somewhere along the road, you start asking questions about that story and the one Jesus told. Questions like, who's the good guy? And who's the bad guy? Who's the teacher? Who's the student? Who's the hero? Who's offering help? Without question, without any doubt, the parable says our neighbor is the one who needs help. But at a deeper level, maybe it is also telling us our neighbor is the one who offers help. But it takes some humility to recognize that. I want to ask you to do something, if you would. Before you leave this campus, if you're here for homecoming, or if you live here, as soon as you can. I want to ask you to walk out of this sanctuary and turn left and walk over to that central statue on our campus, the Good Samaritan. Stand there and take it in. Take note of the priest, head raised a bit, almost as though he's above all this. Take note of the Levite, who turns as though in a bit of a moral quandary. Notice the broken and battered body of the injured man. And then focus on the Samaritan, the Good Samaritan. And you will notice that Alan Collins, the sculptor, sculpted him to be African American. This was many years ago. And there's a story. It was told to me by Dr. Gus Cheatham. Gus Cheatham was one of our senior VPs. I don't remember what we called it at the time, but community relations, PR, those kinds of things. And one day he told me a story about the Good Samaritan statue. Because you see, it hasn't always been encased in whatever hard shell now encases it. It was sandstone. Residents of Loma and the university woke up one day to discover that the Good Samaritan had been decapitated. What happened? People were horrified. What in the world? They investigated things. They tried to find out. They asked questions. They talked to people. Gus said, we never found out with certainty who or why. But the best working proposition was that somebody took deep offense that an African American was the hero, the one who helped. One does wonder. Why? And so it was replaced and encased. So stand. Take it in. I don't know who it is in your life. I don't know who that Samaritan is who will be hard to receive help from. But we all have them. As we look at that statue, as you take it in, remember, it is our call to respond to our neighbors who need help. But maybe it's also a call to humility, to recognize when I need help, I will take it from whomever God sends with gratitude. And so the lawyer stood asking, and who is my neighbor? And Jesus told the story. A story that he may not have liked, an answer that he may not have wanted, that ended with a question of its own. Jesus asking him, who do you think was neighbor? Well, I guess, yeah, that last one, the one who showed compassion. And Jesus said, now you go, and you do the same.
Just to travel alone on the Jericho road. Does the oxymoron. I'm heavy, oh Lord. Just bring it to Christ. Just bring it to Christ. Your sins are confessed. Your sins are confessed. On the Jericho road. On the Jericho road. Your heart He will bless. Your heart He will bless. On the Jericho road. On the Jericho road. There's room for just two. There's room for just two. No more and no less. No more and no less. Just Jesus and you. Just Jesus and you. His blood and He'll bear. His sorrow He'll share. There's never a care. There's never a care. For Jesus is there. For Jesus is there. Oh, brother, to you. Oh, brother, to you. This message I bring. This message I bring. The hope may be gone. The hope may be gone. He'll cause you to sing. He'll cause you to sing. As Jesus commands. Sin shackles must fall. Sin shackles must fall. On the Jericho road. On the Jericho road. Will you answer His call? Will you answer His call? On the Jericho road. On the Jericho road. There's room for just two. There's room for just two. No more and no less. No more and no less. Just Jesus and you. Just Jesus and you. His blood and He'll bear. His sorrow He'll share. There's never a care. There's never a care. For Jesus is there. For Jesus is there.
I'll give you a moment. If I start talking now, you won't listen to a word I said. Thank you, Jehovah Shalom. Thank you for blessing us that way. And for the rest of us who thought we could sing, well, we'll do something else. Well, alumni and friends, we're glad that you're here. We're glad that you came to spend this weekend with us. So I have just a few announcements to make. So following the postlude of the orchestra, you're invited to eat with us, and guess what we're going to have? Wow, okay, this came out of nowhere, didn't it? Exactly right. You're invited to a haystack event for homecoming. And the haystacks will be served out of both the University Church Fellowship Hall and Wong Curlee. And there will be open seating during this as well. And so we invite all of our alumni and friends to share a haystack meal together. Now, we'll have seating available in all locations along with some of the classrooms in the Family Ministries building. And for those of you who may not have been here in a few years, it's just off to the left and right down toward the end of the church. And it's open seating as well. But please note, there are two special meetings that are going on. Black alumni of Loma Linda will be joining together for haystacks in the Gathering Place Room 1402. And the AIM Symposium will be meeting and eating their haystacks together in the Bull Lounge in the Coleman Pavilion. Vespers tonight at 4:30 right here in the church. Come back and listen to some of the mission stories that we have been treated to this morning in Sabbath School. And if you don't have plans for the evening, you're invited to come back to the Drayson Center for a light supper to participate in or watch Pickleball 101 session and an open gym or watch a Disney movie in Collins Auditorium together with friends and family. That'll be starting at 6:30 in Drayson. Tomorrow morning You'll be invited to come back to the Drayson Center area for the pickleball tournament and a pancake feed. So, as we end our service today, we were going to conclude with the signing choir from the School of Allied Health Professions signing the Lord's Prayer. The soloist is Dr. Gigi Noval, accompanied by Loma Linda University Orchestra. Again, welcome home. And in the words of that young man at Jefferson Academy, everybody has to be somewhere, and you chose to come here. But then you went out from anywhere from Bakersfield to Bangladesh to take the healing and teaching ministry of Jesus Christ into the world. We're glad you're here.
Thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is. Us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power
Hello, everybody. As always, great to be with you. And today I have special commendations to the young people who helped me put these greetings together. Yes, I do the original and send it up there someplace, and they bring it down to Loma Linda Media. And Victor, Fiona, and Laura, the talented people who put this all together for us, so I can bring you greetings now.
Number 1 today, Edna Barrett, right here, Loma Linda, birthday 36. There she is with her darling children and handsome husband Jonathan, and then again Daddy and the children.
Esperanza Idrisselman, Loma Linda, California, 85th birthday lady. Congratulations there with your canine friend, then with your daughters, and surrounded with a loving family. Arthur Thiel, Redlands, California. Hello, Arthur. Happy birthday to you. There with darling granddaughter, and then with Tiffany and Cedric. Rex Clark, 68th birthday, right here, Loma Linda. The man himself, and with wife Jocelyn. Hello, Pat Powers, my friend Duncombe, Iowa. 65th birthday, Pat. Congratulations. And the town congratulates you for 45 years at KQWC Radio. I congratulate you also. Hello, Jill Landless, Loma Linda, California. So glad to know about your birthday. I wish you all the best. Always glad to be in touch with your family. Norv Faller Manalo, also here in Loma Linda. Happy birthday to you. I wish you all the very, very best. Olivia Gallimore, The Villa. Hello, Olivia. Happy birthday. And glad to know you, Diane Redmond, are also a part of the Villa family. And I wish you a very happy birthday. A special hello to Richard and Sandra Kenfield, part of our University Church family. Richard is 88 and Sandra is 85. They don't look that old at all, do they? Congratulations. And Richard is an alumnus of the medical school in 1963. Hello, Glenn Fuller, Orange Beach, Florida. Always glad to be in touch with you, Glenn. Snuggled there with a great-grandchild, I think, and then with dear Janine. Marty Kirkland, Scottsdale, Arizona. Marty is my sister-in-law, and I wish you all the very best, Marty. Jim Wood, Yuba City, California. Birthday number 80. My colleague for a number of years. Happy birthday, Jim. So good to see you there with dear Karen. Blanche Wilson, Loma Linda, California. 88th birthday, Blanche. Congratulations, lady. And there with late husband and your children. Metaline Wilson is Blanche's daughter-in-law, Barry's wife. Hello there in Loma Linda. Happy birthday to you with Barry, and I see you two like Lake Powell. Ione Brunt, Linwood, Washington. Hello, Ione, and glad to see you with Brother John. A very special birthday to you, dear. Helen Lai Pang, right here, Loma Linda also. And dressed for winter, I see, very attractively, by the way, and with dear husband, Michael. Della Keel, College Place, Washington. Happy birthday, Della, and so good to see you in that picture with late sister Marguerite. Jolene Yassa, Noblesville, Indiana. Happy birthday, Jolene. All the very best. And to you too, Joyce Haskins, Newbury Park, California, there with husband Bill, and then with son Harold. Stanford Wolf lives in Springville, California, 85th birthday. Congratulations, Stanford, there with Donna, your wife, and then with one of your grandsons. Randy Spire, Cool, California. Pretty cool guy, I'd say. Happy birthday, Randy, and there with dear wife, Jewel. Esther Ames, Yountville, California. And a special greeting to you, Esther, and there, I think, with a couple of grandchildren. Paul Richardson, Walla Walla University Church Administrator. Hi, Paul, there before you had a haircut, and now with dear Terry. Don Olson, Newport Beach, California. My dear friend, hello, Don. You look better with darling Jody. And then there you are with sons and grandsons, I think. Hello, David Smith, Loma Linda. Glad to see you just the other day, and delighted to see you with wife Lisa and your granddaughter. And there you are with that special granddaughter again. Edna Mae Gallington, Riverside, California. Hello, Edna Mae, and glad to see you with your canine buddy. Kay Prinz, Sarasota, Florida. Happy birthday, Kay, and glad to see you with your husband. Lou Wildman, Salem, Oregon. The maestro himself, conducting somebody, I'm sure, but you look so much better with wife Renette, Lou. Gary Haynes, Cornell, California, my colleague at Faithful Today for a number of years, and so good to see you with darling Valerie, and then with your daughter Amy, Gary. Dr. Ron and Vicky Fritz live in Puerto Escondido, Oaxaca, Mexico, and they have birthdays pretty close together. So I wish you two all the very best in your very happy place.
Yes, one more time, always glad to be with you. I pray for you. Thanks for your prayers for me, and I look forward to the next time.